Let me introduce you to someone, and she's a dear friend. She's a fellow CPA. You will find out really quickly that she is not the typical CPA, nor am I. Uh, and her name is Shannon Weinstein. She's a fractional CFO. She helps people. What she understood is that y'all need to understand your numbers, and your numbers will drive your business. Your business will drive your life, and yet so many people were having challenges with understanding the numbers. They didn't know what to do, how to do it, and so she decides to come in and say, I can help. I can make it easier to understand. And she sees things from the business side, the CFO side, life side. Okay. And I just thought it would be cool to bring her on to do this and have that conversation. So let me see if we've got her here. There she is.
Hey,
I love it when technology works.
I know. Isn't it great when it
Oh
actually works?
my God, Shannon, how are you? So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, I didn't give her a lot of notice for this. I was sitting there going, I want one more person, and I thought I'm going to ask Shannon. You know, and I just want to have a conversation a little bit. First off, I think a little bit about maybe telling people how you fit in to their financial journey as a fractional CFO, or the kinds of things you do, and then maybe a little bit about your journey, because you came from corporate, very corporate, stuffy corporate, like you, and we went through the same thing, but you saw something bigger that drove you and tugged at you to do something more.
Yeah, definitely. So where I fit in is in Mel's drawing with that machine where you have the stuff coming in and then going out. I'm on the other side of that. So my job is to make sure you have enough stuff in the earnings machine to put into the money machine. So my job is making sure plenty of that flows out so you can use the money machine. And I love that Mel puts it that way because he's enabled me to explain it that way too and say there are really two things going on here: earning more and then using it to work harder, than you did for it. So that's where I fit in, is helping you have that money to work for you. And my whole brand is called Keep What You Earn, which is exactly that. And yes, I came from corporate, a big stuffy corporate, as most accountants do. And I was, working with other accountants and using their jargon all day and having a grand old time talking about business and money. And I realized really quickly when I got out of that environment that more people need to be in these conversations and be talking about wealth and talking about their financial future in a less taboo way. And I made it kind of my mission and my passion to help business owners really understand their numbers. And as I put it, unlock the story that the numbers are trying to tell them. Because you can actually see where you're heading and you can see where you are if you know how to read the numbers. It's like another language.
Yeah, it's so important, and too often we don't spend the time trying to understand how to read the numbers. Now, your job isn't to replace them. Your job is to facilitate them taking control, right?
Exactly. So if you think about, if you're driving a car that is your business to get you to a certain destination, your goal, there are some people who drive aimlessly with no map, and that's okay. They just enjoy the ride. But some people, they want to program a destination into that map, know where your goal is, where you want to get to. I help you get there, avoiding the potholes, the speed traps, the, the different long ways to get there, the construction, it's like having that GPS system that will take you the most efficient way to get from point A to point B. But you have to understand and listen to the navigation. You don't hand over the keys to Google Maps and say, just take me there. I know we have self-driving cars now, but it's true that you want me to be the person in the front seat telling you where to turn to avoid the pothole. You don't want to hand me the keys and then lock yourself in the trunk, because you won't like where you end up and you won't be along for the ride and you won't know where we're going because there will be no windows. So a lot of business owners will do exactly that. They'll hand over the keys and say, you got this, you know where you're going, and I'll just be in the trunk. And then they get surprised when they end up in a different destination. So that's my biggest thing is, please put me in the front seat and let me help you navigate.
Yeah, see this, and this is the same thing that I tell people about their wealth is this idea of even when you hire a professional. So I have a wealth team. I have advisors. They don't touch the wheel. They're whispering in my ears. They're giving me information. I'm making the decisions. Now, let me be really clear for everyone. That's not trying to make you a Shannon or a Mel. We don't want you to be CPAs. We don't want you to be financial analysts. We just want you to be fully informed. We want, because now you're empowered. Now you're in a place where you have the opportunity to take control when things happen, and you don't get surprised. And I think that's really an important dynamic to make sure that we're doing in our business and in our life.
Yeah. And a lot of those concepts translate into life as well. You don't want to, I mean, Chris and Lori, for example, right? You don't want to hand over the keys completely to someone else and take ownership, as Lori put it. You have to take ownership of your outcomes and know that you were the one with the hand on the wheel. And it just means that you need a better navigator. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong, but you can look for a better navigation system. And like your book, Mel, is a perfect tool for that. It's kind of like now you have the map quest in front of you of this. If I don't have the person in the front seat, at least I have Mel's book to help me as well.
So good. Now, so someone that's sitting back, and hey, I'm thinking of trying to start out, and maybe they're want to start a business, or they are in business, they've never taken and given it a priority. Where would you point them first? What do you want them to focus on first? What are the kind of the first steps that they should be looking at?
So most accountants will tell you go hire an accountant or hire a bookkeeper. I disagree. I think you have to find the commitment to tracking anything that you think is going to move the needle for your business, tracking data. So it's understanding that you have to start creating that trail of breadcrumbs to know where you've been, to know where you're going, so that when you do grow your business, you can look back and realize and notice patterns and notice trends and get that feedback as soon as possible. So you can turn and you can figure out the pivots that you need to make in your business. So I would say a commitment to tracking. And I always say, even if it's crayon on a napkin, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But a simple spreadsheet, a QuickBooks or a Xero or those bookkeeping tools, anything helps that you are comfortable with, that you will do consistently and actually track the ins and outs of your bank accounts or the ins and outs of different analytics in your business. Just starting to look at the data is step one.
So good. So good. And then you come in, you'll help with setting up the tracking, but then the interpretation is where people fall down. They don't know what they're looking at. It's Morse code.
Yeah, you get your P&L at the end of the month, and it might as well be, I mean, this happened to me. I went to the doctor and I got my blood work, and I realized that that I didn't know what the heck I was reading. And I didn't know, I was like, am I going to die? Am I healthy? Am I at risk for anything? I don't know. And there was no real clear guidance on that piece of paper that helped me, like a legend or something that helped me interpret that data. I had to go to my doctor and say, what does this mean? What does this mean for me? What should I do with this information? What behavior should I change? And how should I improve this data? And I realized, oh my gosh, this is how my clients feel. If you're just getting a P&L, if you're just getting a profit and loss statement, or you're just getting these reports out of QuickBooks every single month, and you're like, cool, check that off the list. I got my report, but you don't do anything with that information and it doesn't change your behavior, then you're really not learning from it and you're not making decisions with it. It is just might as well be a macaroni painting on the fridge and to say, I'm admiring this. This is what it looks like. And it will not change how you make decisions. And that's not what we want to do. We want to drive behavior changes in the right direction.
So good. So good. I remember looking at one of my tests, and it said, and they tested all my organs. And you see in there, you see in the words, it says, this organ, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was a kidney or something. No, it was spleen or something. It says is unremarkable. Like, I was insulted. I'm like going, what do you mean unremarkable? I'm like, what does that mean? What it means is there's no bad things. But I didn't know that. I'm thinking it was if I looked at you and said, Shannon, you're not very remarkable.
Yeah, it sounds disappointing. What do you do with that word? What should I do with
know.
that information,
Like,
right?
I had no idea. So Yeah, I don't know. I do keep the results, and this brings up a really interesting point for Shannon. I have my results going back decades. Like I can watch my blood work for decades. Okay, number nerds, spreadsheet nerds, right here. Two of us right here. Okay, but this is really an important thing because one of the things that you're doing is looking at trends, looking at where not just what happened, but what the direction is that we're going. Right.
Yeah, the major skill that we bring to the table is pattern recognition. So when you do this for an extended period of time, this is the result you can expect. For example, if you start eating 3 extra cookies every day, what do you think is going to happen to your ability to fit in your pants in a month?
Yeah,
You
depending on
know,
the
how
cookies,
do we
huh?
trace the outcome to the behaviors that drove that outcome? And how do we then change our behaviors based on our goals and connect the numbers to the goals? Because what a lot of accountants will do is present the data, but not connect it to
Yeah.
what you actually want and fit it into what your destination is. So if you want to send your kids to private school, if you want to save up for college tuition, if you want to retire early, if you want to buy a house or purchase a vacation home or take 1 extra vacation, what does that look like financially? Number one. And number two, what has to happen for that to be, it's not such a reality that it would be unreasonable for it not to happen for you. So how do we create the behaviors that make it unreasonable not to expect that that will be the outcome? And then what are the behaviors we can hold you accountable to making that happen? And most people don't hear that from accountants. You think about data and spreadsheets and numbers, but what we turn into is that accountability partner for your money to say, hey, is that more important than this goal of sending your daughter to private school? You know, to invest in that thing or to have that shiny object syndrome over here and invest in that new thing. It's like, hey, wait a minute, is that getting you closer to that goal or further away from it? And it's really having that discipline and building that discipline of making solid money decisions while you're earning it so that you have more to work with in that money machine.
So, and this is hear what Shannon's saying because this is really important. We started the day off talking about this idea of the vision. Everything needs to lead to life. What do we want to do? One of the challenges in when we start to talk about bookkeeping, tax returns, accounting, finance, all that stuff, is a lot of times most professionals are trained to look backwards and tell you what you did. Y'all, if you had a bad year, you don't need someone reminding you. If you had a great year, you couldn't have someone celebrating you, that's fine. But the question is, who's the advisor or who are the people in your life that are going to look backwards and say, what does this tell me? And then look forwards and say, what does this tell me about the future? What do we need to change? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to elevate, escalate, and accentuate? This is the thing that I think that is missing for most is that just get the accounting done, or I'm just going to get the numbers done, and then I'm going to go about my way. Imagine for a moment you're a pilot on a plane. You're looking at the gauges, and you go back to your conversation with the co-pilot, not allowing the data from the gauges to define the adjustments you need to make to get to the destination you want to go to. But that's what we're doing if we're not careful. And I think that's the challenge with not understanding it. And so again, this is what Shannon is doing. And I think this is your team. I call my wealth team a team. Is for you, Shannon acts as a partner in your journey. Not in the sense that she's actually a partner in the profits and all that, but it is someone that says, I'm looking out for the bigger picture. And now you can have real conversations in a way that is moving you closer to that goal. And as she said, she's on the earnings machine side. But remember, that earnings machine side is the thing that funds the money machine. If that's not optimizing cash flows, earnings, and value, then we don't have the ability to optimize the money machine. The work you do on that side of the equation is the fuel and the means in which to build the money machine. It's also the more successful you are on that side of the equation, the more that Shannon is involved in getting you dialed in, the faster you're going to build the money machine. You know, and this is the thing that I think happens. Now, what do you think are some of the stumbling blocks, the things that get in our way from, one, creating a productive relationship between us and the people that are guiding us, and two, integrating that knowledge or wanting to pay attention to it? What has been your experience along that?
I think the thing that gets in the way is this communication stalemate of, you know, the business owner not feeling confident enough to ask for what they want from their professional, or knowing what to order off the menu, as I put it. But then the accountant being used to an order taker, waiting for the person in front of them to order something. But they don't realize that there's no menu above their head. So it's this still stalemate of, I don't know what to order and I don't know what to give you. And I think that the big communication gap with most professionals is that they're, to some extent, both have to come to the table, but a lot of the time the client or the business owner is uncomfortable with money, uncomfortable asking these questions, doesn't know what to ask, and therefore holds back and says, I'm not confident in this, therefore I'm not going to explore it more because it's uncomfortable. So I think we have to get a little bit comfortable being uncomfortable and kind of going through the muck of those questions and being okay saying, I don't know much about this, I would like you to explain this to me, and having a little humility to it, because I don't think people realize that this is everybody. It's just that no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
And it has to be talked about more, that a lot of people are not confident around money because we were never taught this stuff and you had to seek it out on your own. And on the flip side, I think professionals also have to be more forthcoming with their knowledge and understanding to meet people where they're at. So I think that's the biggest, for me, the biggest gap, where that people get uncomfortable talking about money because they're not really sure how to bring it up, who to talk to about it, or how to really get started in approaching it. Which is why, again, Mel, I speak to what you talk about and how you approach money in your book. It's the number one way you can just start, even just learning a little bit of the concepts and principles to start with before getting into the high level tactics. Like, you think you have to come to the table and talk about crypto and asset classes and hedge funds and ETFs and use all this jargon and all of these terms. It's pretty basic. It's just talking about the principles first and really starting there.
Yeah. So I'm going to say something. We'll see how it plays out. Because here's what I've told people repeatedly. One of the jobs of your financial advisor on the wealth side, and I think it's the same on the earnings machine side too. One of their primary jobs is to be an educator. That their job is to first educate you, and if they don't have the capacity, the patience, or the desire to do so, sounds rough, fire them. Because the only way you're ever going to get a chance to make good decisions, to skill up, to feel comfortable, is if you're educated. And absent going to a degree process or some other education process, I think that our professionals aren't there to just do it for us, but to educate us on what they do. What's your thought on that?
I think so, but I think education has to be simplified to the point where you're speaking the language of the other person.
Yes.
Instead of making them learn the jargon and making them learn all of these things about what you do. I think you have to be able to distill it to the impact that it has and make it real for the person. I think it has to relate to their life experience. That's why I use analogies so much, because it tends to resonate better when people can relate to an experience of, you know, a weight loss journey or a customer service experience or something like that, more than, you know, trying to teach them what we learned in school. I think we just have to use the same concepts and make it more relatable. And I do think education is key, but simplification and guidance is really where I see it, because I think of decision making, like that show Let's Make a Deal with the three windows
Yeah.
or the three, curtain number one, curtain number two.
That's going
My
back
job
a
is
ways.
actually to peel back the curtain so you can make a solid decision confidently. Because if you go into that situation and you say, I can take the money now, or I can take curtain number one or curtain number two, and you don't know where the zonk is, because there's always a zonk. If I can come in and I can make that curtain thinner so you could see through it, if I could give you a hint, or if I could peel back the curtain altogether, you could confidently make the decision of which of these things you want. And I don't have to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I just have to expose you to what's in front of you and tell you, here are the facts. And then based on what's important to you, you have all the information you need to make a decision.
So, and I totally agree with this. Here's the thing that I know people, we hear this concept of, well, communication's a two-way street. Yeah, I don't think so. It's a one-way street. It's my job to make sure that my message comes across in a way that you understand it. And if it, especially as a professional, and if it doesn't, it's not the client is too dumb, too stupid, uneducated, or anything. It's I am not speaking the right language. I'm not using the right words. It's on me. I just think so. Now, the question came up, and maybe we can touch on this, because some people don't know what it is. But what is a fractional CFO?
So basically, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and we say fractional to mean a piece of my time goes to every business I serve. So a fraction of my time. So fractional meaning I am the CFO for about a dozen different businesses, which is super exciting and fun for someone who loves variety like me and loves learning.
Which
so
is for accountants.
For, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I want more spreadsheets, Mel. I just want more spreadsheets. So I love serving my business owners and founders, and we actually pull a lot of lessons from some clients to the other. We don't reveal the details, obviously, because of privacy and confidentiality and trust, but what I can do is learn lessons from the successes and failures of one client and bring them over to another and say, you get the benefit of me being in the room with all of these people all day long and learning from everyone and seeing what's working and iterating. So we talk about financial strategy, we talk about goal setting, and we talk about things like tax planning. And we just try to get ahead of, like you said, talk about the future. We're in future tense all the time. I always say I don't like talking in past tense unless it's going to serve a future objective. That's a big part of what we do. So we leverage the reports that a bookkeeper gives or a tax preparer gives, and we help turn that into decision making for our business owners.
Beautiful, beautiful. So hopefully that helps, Elizabeth, with the understanding, because it's important. And one of the reasons that there is this element is that some businesses are not at the level that warrants a full-time CFO, but they are at a level that it warrants the CFO mind, expertise, and direction. And so it's a way to allow you to access that knowledge, that education, that direction without having to pay the full price on it. So other people are paying a piece of that to do that. So as someone is trying to build the machine, the earnings machine, what do you think are the couple of things that they should be focusing in on to maximize their, let's call it cash flow, profits, value? What are the things where you see that they go wrong that we need to be focusing in on? Because the more I can increase that, optimize that cash flow, the faster I'm building the money machine to give me freedom.
There are so many things, but I would say the things that drive value or strength of cash flow, I would call it. One is it's reducing risk, ultimately. The risk that someone's not going to pay you because you have recurring auto pay. The risk that you are going to get hit by a bus and the whole business goes up in smoke because you have SOPs. The risk of, one client leaves you, but you have so much weight on that one client for your revenue that it can alter your business trajectory for life, that you have life-changing things that happen to your business because of one small thing that happens externally. So we want to minimize risk. But when it comes to cash flow, that also means having more predictability and having more ability to make decisions knowing what's coming down the pike and having more visibility into the future. So if you're starting from zero every single month, selling new people, if you have a down month because God forbid you get sick, this happens, something happens with your family, you don't want your revenue to be directly proportional to the time you spend in your business. To what you said before, Mel, you shouldn't be earning through time. You should be earning through leverage and leveraging the knowledge that you have, leveraging other people's money if you're capitalized, leveraging, policies and terms that can help you make sure that your revenue and your income is more predictable.
Awesome. Awesome. Shannon, as we start to close, are there what would be things that maybe one or two things that you would tell people, hey, focus in on this? If there was one thing, two things, where should they be putting their attention and all of that? And we'll make sure that people have access to where to get a hold of you also, and everything. Evelyn's asking, how about if you have a job? So
Actually, a solid cash flow forecast got me out of my job. So that's actually what I was going to share with you is the best thing you can do is be willing to just take a minute, put down the amount in your bank account on, say, Monday morning, and go out 6 weeks and map out what money is supposed to come in, what money is supposed to go out. Where am I going to be in 6 weeks in my bank account? Start that exercise, just 6 weeks, because you kind of have an idea of in the next month, when are the bills going to hit? When does rent hit? When do my paychecks hit? Even if you're in a job, you can do this for yourself personally as well. And you can start just doing the tracking of what's coming in and out. So you have the awareness of what's going on. And that will help you identify constraints, issues, things to change right out the gate and get you a quick win in terms of something that you can adjust that will pay you back in more wealth as you go along.
awesome, awesome. Shannon, thanks for last minute jumping on and being
Anytime.
here with us and kind of walking through some of this stuff. I just think it's important for us to understand that earning side of the machine to make that happen, because they work together and we make it work together. So thank you again for jumping on, and can't wait for more.
Thank you so much. And if you do want to learn more from me, head to keepwhatyouearn.com. That's where all my stuff is and how you can get a hold of me.
Absolutely. And she's got an amazing show and podcast, which I talked about in the introductions. So make sure that you follow that. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.